I'm Vaishali Kohli. Now, the United States carried out an airstrike against Islamic State terrorists in northwest Nigeria at the request of Nigeria's government. US President Donald Trump and the US military has said, claiming the group had been targeting Christians in the region. The US military's Africa Command said on X the strike was conducted at the request of Nigerian authorities and killed multiple ISIS militants. The strike comes after President Trump, starting in late October, began warning that Christianity faces an existential threat in Nigeria and threatened to militarily intervene in the West African country over what he says is its failure to stop violence targeting Christian communities. I have Aditya Vadhavan with me. Aditya, what more can you tell us?
By the United States come after a very short gap, recently, some days back also, the US forces had conducted strikes against the ISIS terrorist hideouts in and around Nigeria. And definitely, some months ago, even the US President Donald Trump had expressed concern that there are killings of Christians going on across Nigeria, and also the US State Department had designated Nigeria as the country of particular concern because such killings and extremism has engulfed Nigeria for quite some years now. There has been the rise of militants, Islamic militants. If you see the Boko Haram is also very active, and other the Islamic groups are fighting amongst themselves, to take stock of the country. So indeed, at this juncture, what are the statements that are coming from the United States President Donald Trump is that the Nigerian authorities had requested these strikes by America against these ISIS terrorists. So indeed, at this juncture, these strikes are a part of President Trump's campaign, to dismantle the ecosystem of the ISIS terrorist group in and across Nigeria, and definitely, at the other, local terrorist groups that operate in and around Nigeria. And definitely, we could expect some more strikes by the United States in the coming days. Vishali.
All right, Aditya, thanks for joining me. And I have my guest, Brigadier Sanjay Khanna, who's a former diplomat on the broadcast. Mr. Khanna, now the United States has, of course, carried out an airstrike against Islamic State terrorists in northwest Nigeria. How do you see it?
Well, the Americans, just a few days back, President Trump had mentioned that he would get after the terrorists all over the world. And Vishali, in Africa, terrorism is a huge problem. There are so many terrorist organizations operating in East, West, and North of Africa, including Central Africa. And because of that, it is not only the US, which is does these kind of activities, but it's the zones which have been divided, in which USS, that is Russia is also there. There are certain European countries also involved in these anti-terrorist activities, helping the local governments of those countries. And if you see we always thought that it was the Middle East which had all these terrorist organizations operating and causing various terrorist activities in various places. However, the African continent has become so very engrossed in the terrorist activities because there are lots of reasons for it. First of all, none of the the governments in Africa are stable. You would have heard of coups taking place, the terrorist groups forming governments, overthrowing governments. So these kind of activities are there, and most importantly, ISIS, which is a dreaded terrorist organization, has bases in quite a few countries, including in Nigeria. And what are these terrorists doing? They have been targeting the Christians in those areas because they don't want Christian presence. But whatever it be, the Christians are already existing there. They have been living there for centuries, and these terrorist organizations want to wipe them out or ensure that there is an exodus and they move away from the African continent. In this context, President Trump has ordered these strikes to take place, and very significant strikes. Do you know, in Nigeria, these terrorist organizations, especially Boko Haram as well as ISIS, they are located in dense jungles from where they operate, and they have makeshift terrorist camps. So it's very difficult to actually pinpoint and have precision strikes. But the Americans, we are well aware, they have satellite imagery, they have their informers on ground. The local governments, like in this case, it is Nigerian government has also provided them intelligence. In addition to the intelligence gathered by the Americans themselves, and that is why President Trump has categorically said that these strikes were precision strikes, and a lot of damage has been carried out to these ISIS